To our amazing viewers at Infidelity Tales Lab, welcome and thank you. Your presence makes these stories worth sharing. We'd love to hear, which part of the world are you joining us from? Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Faded Promises. The September sun cast long shadows across Callum Severin's immaculate lawn as he pulled his Range Rover into the driveway of his colonial-style home in Oak Ridge Heights. At 42, Callum had built everything from nothing, rising from a hardscrabble childhood in South Boston to becoming one of the most respected security consultants on the East Coast. His company, Severin Solutions, specialized in high-end security systems for the wealthy and powerful, a career that had made him both rich and connected to people who operated in society's shadows. He checked his watch, 7:30 p.m., 2 hours earlier than expected. The Milan deal had closed faster than anticipated, and he caught an earlier flight to surprise Adrienne, his wife of 15 years. Their anniversary was next week, and he thought they could use the extra time together. Things hadn't been right between them for months. The house was unusually quiet when he entered. No music, no TV, none of Adrienne's usual evening routine sounds. "Adri," he called, setting down his briefcase in the foyer. Silence. Callum loosened his tie and moved through the house, noticing subtle things out of place. A wine glass with lipstick on the counter, men's sunglasses he didn't recognize on the coffee table. The master bedroom door was slightly ajar, and he could hear the shower running in their ensuite bathroom. He pushed the door open to find their bed unmade, the sheets tangled. On Adrienne's nightstand, her phone buzzed with an incoming text. Callum normally respected her privacy, but something felt wrong. He glanced at the screen. From Vince, "I miss you already. Same time tomorrow?" Callum felt his stomach twist. He'd suspected something was off, but seeing confirmation made his blood run cold. He pocketed Adrienne's phone and walked back downstairs, his mind racing. He poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey and sat in darkness, waiting. 30 minutes later, Adrienne came downstairs in her silk robe, her blonde hair still damp. She startled when she spotted him in the shadows. "Jesus, Cal, you scare me half to death." Her hand flew to her chest. "When did you get home? I thought you weren't back until Friday." "Clearly," Callum said, his voice unnervingly calm. He held up her phone. "Who's Vince?" Her face drained of color. "It's not." "Don't," he cut her off. "Don't insult me with lies." Adrienne's eyes welled with tears. "It just happened, Cal. You're never here. You're always working, always gone." 15 years, Adri. He swirled the amber liquid in his glass. 15 years, I've given you everything you wanted. I built this life for us. A life where I'm alone most of the time. Vincent makes me feel alive again. Callum didn't react. His face remained impassive, but inside, something fundamental was changing. The Callum who had walked into this house was dying, and someone else, something colder, was taking his place. "Vincent Hargrove? The art dealer?" Callum asked, remembering the pretentious man he'd met at the Brenner's charity auction last spring. Adrienne nodded, her tears now flowing freely. "I didn't mean for it to happen." "How long?" "For months," she whispered. Callum nodded once, drained his whiskey, and stood. "I'm staying at the Archer tonight. I'll be back tomorrow to collect some things." "Cal, please, we can work through this," Adrienne pleaded, grabbing his arm. He looked down at her hand, then back at her face. His eyes were devoid of the warmth they'd always held for her. "The most dangerous mistake people make, Adri, is thinking they know me. Even you." He gently removed her hand. "You have no idea what you've done." As he left, he heard her collapse in his sobs behind him. He felt nothing. Chapter 2, The Architect of Pain. For 3 days, Callum operated on autopilot. He checked into the Archer Hotel, contacted his lawyer, and threw himself into work. On the 4th day, he met with his oldest friend, Leo Prescott, at an out-of-the-way bar in Charlestown. "You look like hell," Leo said, sliding into the booth. A former Marine turned private investigator, Leo had been Callum's friend since they were teenagers running wild on Boston streets. "I need your help," Callum said, pushing a folder across the table. "Everything on Vincent Hargrove, and I need surveillance on Adrienne." Leo whistled low. This is about more than divorce evidence, isn't it? Callum's eyes met his friend's. You know me better than that. Cal, whatever you're thinking, I'm not asking you to get your hands dirty. Just information. Leo studied his friend's face. This isn't you, Cal. You've always been the smart one, the one who walked away from trouble. That Callum died when he saw those texts, he replied. I want to know everything. Where they meet, what they do, who knows about them. I want to know what Hargrove fears, what he loves, would he do anything to protect. Leo sighed, but took the folder. 1 week. Then we talk again before this goes any further. Over the next 2 weeks, Callum moved through his life like a ghost. He rented a luxury apartment downtown as a temporary residence. He met with his lawyer, Dominic Savino, to quietly begin divorce preparations without filing yet. He continued running his business with mechanical precision, and every night, he pored over the information Leo delivered. Vincent Hargrove was 38, divorced, with a reputation as a playboy in Boston's art world. His gallery catered to the city's elite, but behind its successful facade, Leo discovered money problems. Vincent had gambling debts to some dangerous people and was using his relationship with wealthy clients, particularly their wives, to stay afloat. Meanwhile, Adrian had called and texted Callum constantly the first week, then fallen silent when he didn't respond. According to Leo's surveillance, she spent most nights at Vincent's downtown loft, looking increasingly anxious as days passed. She had visited Callum's office twice, only to be turned away by his assistant. On a rainy Friday evening, there was a knock at Callum's apartment door. He opened it to find Adrienne's brother, Wesley Donahue, soaked and agitated. "We need to talk," Wesley said, pushing past him into the apartment. "Make yourself at home," Callum said dryly, closing the door. "What are you doing, Cal?" "Adri's a mess. She's made a mistake, but destroying her like this is cruel." Callum poured 2 whiskeys and handed one to Wesley. "Destroying her? I've said nothing to anyone. I'm just giving her space to be with her lover. Don't play games. You froze her out of your accounts. Her cards were declined yesterday at lunch with our mother. A banking error. Already fixed." Callum shrugged. "Marriage is a partnership, Wes. When one partner makes unilateral decisions that affect the relationship, there are natural consequences." Wesley studied him. "You're different. I've known you for 17 years, and I've never seen you like this. People change. Cal, Adri told me everything. She's ending it with Vincent. She wants to fix your marriage." Callum smiled, but didn't reach his eyes. "Too late." "What does that mean?" Wesley asked, alarm creeping into his voice. "It means some things can't be undone. It means I'm just getting started." Wesley set down his glass. "Cal, I'm worried about you. This isn't about Adri anymore, is it? This is about something darker. You should worry about your sister, Wes. She chose poorly." As Wesley left, he turned back. "She still loves you, Cal, despite everything." "That's her problem, not mine," Callum replied, closing the door. That night, Callum received a final report from Leo. Vincent Hargrove owed $375,000 to Alexei Petrov, a Russian with connections to organized crime in Boston. The debt was due in 3 weeks. Vincent was desperate, planning to sell several forged artworks to unsuspecting clients. Callum smiled for the first time in weeks. He had found his leverage. Chapter 3. The Precipice. Over the next week, Callum set his plan in motion. He contacted an old client, District Attorney Howard Sullivan, and anonymously provided evidence of Vincent's art forgery scheme. Then, through shell companies, he arranged to purchase Vincent's debt from Petrov at a premium. He also hired a team to quietly move his most valuable possessions from the house when Adrian was out. Expensive wines, rare books, family heirlooms. Anything with sentimental or significant monetary value disappeared without a trace. He emptied their safe of jewelry he'd given her over the years, leaving only what she'd brought to the marriage or purchased herself. On Friday morning, Callum received a call from Raymond Kessler, his mentor and the man who had given him his start in the security business 20 years ago. "You're making moves, Callum," Raymond said, his gravelly voice carrying decades of cigarettes and hard living. "Word gets around. Just reorganizing my life, Ray." Petrov thinks you're moving in on his territory. Callum laughed. I have no interest in his business. This is personal. Personal gets people killed, son. Raymond paused. The Hargrove situation, be careful. Once you cross certain lines, there's no coming back. I crossed that line the moment I saw those texts, Ray. Then at least be smart. Whatever you do, make sure it can't be traced back to you. That's why I called in that favor with Sullivan. The DA is looking at Hargrove's gallery now, and I own his debt to Petrov. Raymond was quiet for a moment. You've thought this through. Just remember what I taught you. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Don't let emotion cloud your judgment. I've never been clearer, Callum replied. That evening, Callum drove to his old neighborhood in South Boston. He parked outside a modest three-family house and knocked on the first-floor apartment door. A heavy-set man with tattoos covering his arms opened it. Callum fucking Severin, Deacon Murphy grinned. Been a long time. Need to talk, Deke. Inside, Deacon poured them beers. They had grown up together before Callum got out of Southie. Deacon had stayed, becoming a respected figure in Boston's underground. Word is you're making moves against Petrov, Deacon said. Not against. Just took something off his hands. Hargrove's debt. Deacon nodded. And now you own him. I need something else, Callum said. A gun. Untraceable. Deacon's eyebrows rose. That's not your style, Cal. Plans change. This about your wife? Leo mentioned something's going down. Callum's jaw tightened. Can you help or not? Deacon studied his old friend. For you? Yeah. But whatever you're planning, be careful. Men like us don't do well in cages. The next day, Saturday, Callum executed the next phase of his plan. He called Vincent Hargrove directly. Mr. Hargrove, Callum Severin. I believe you know my wife. There was a long pause. Mr. Severin, Save it. We have business to discuss. Your debt to Petrov is now mine, as is the evidence of your forgeries that's currently sitting on D.A. Sullivan's desk. What do you want? Vincent's voice trembled. Meet me tonight. My house, 8 p.m. Come alone. Tell no one, especially not Adrian. I can explain everything. 8 p.m. Don't be late. Callum hung up. That afternoon, Callum visited his house for the first time in weeks. Adrian wasn't home. Leo had confirmed she was getting her hair done, then meeting her friend Madeline for lunch. Callum went to the basement and set up what he needed, then waited. At 7:55 p.m., Vincent's Porsche pulled into the driveway. Callum watched from the window as the man sat in his car for several minutes, visibly nervous, before finally approaching the front door. Callum let him in, Vincent's normally confident demeanor replaced by anxious fidgeting. Have a seat. Callum gestured to the living room couch. Look, Callum. Can I call you Callum? This situation with Adrian is the least of your problems, Callum finished, handing Vincent a thick folder. Inside you'll find documentation of your debt to me, photographs of you with several forgeries, and statements from 2 of your suppliers willing to testify against you. Vincent paled as he flipped through the pages. What do you want? Money? I can sell the gallery. I want you to leave Boston. Tonight. Never contact Adrian again. Disappear. I can't just. You can and will. Otherwise, tomorrow morning, the DEA gets this folder and Petrov learns you're still in town with no intention of paying your debt. Vincent swallowed hard. She loves me, you know. We're planning a life together. Callum smiled coldly. No, she doesn't. And no, you're not. You don't know her like I do. I know she's been contacting divorce attorneys. I know she's been moving money from your joint account to a private one. Vincent looked surprised. Oh, she didn't tell you that part? Adrian's many things, but sentimental isn't one of them. Vincent's face hardened. You think you've won? You haven't. Even if I leave, she'll never come back to you. I don't want her back, Callum said simply. Now, get out. You have until midnight to be on the road. After Vincent left, Callum made some final preparations in the basement, then went upstairs to pour himself a drink. Around 10 p.m., he heard Adrian's car in the driveway. Perfect timing. He quickly dialed a number on a burner phone he'd purchased. 911. What's your emergency? I think I heard gunshots at my neighbor's house. Callum disguised his voice. The Severins at 47 Oak Ridge Drive. There was shouting before that. He gave a fake name and address when asked, then disconnected and quickly went to the basement to wait. 15 minutes later, he heard banging on the front door, followed by the authoritative voice of a police officer. He waited 5 more minutes, then purposefully made noise coming up from the basement. As he emerged into the hallway, he saw Officer Trent Rafferty standing in his foyer with Adrian, who looked confused and frightened. "Mr. Severin?" Officer Rafferty called. Callum feigned surprise. "Officer, what's going on?" "We receive a report of a disturbance at this address." "Gunshots." "Gunshots?" "No, nothing like that here." Adrian stepped forward. "Callum, what are you doing here?" "I thought—" "Sir," Officer Rafferty interrupted, speaking into his radio, "I need to check the premises. Standard procedure with these calls." "Of course," Callum agreed. "Though I just came up from the basement, and everything's fine down there." The officer nodded but headed toward the basement door anyway. Callum and Adrian stood in uncomfortable silence. "Why are you here, Cal?" she asked quietly. "It's still my house," he replied. "I came to get some clothes." Suddenly, Officer Rafferty's voice called up from the basement. "Mr. Severin, Mrs. Severin, you both need to come down here right now." They exchanged confused glances before heading downstairs. Officer Rafferty was standing near the washing machine, his flashlight illuminating something on the floor. Blood, a small pool of it, with smears leading toward the utility closet. "What the hell is this?" Adrian gasped. Officer Rafferty had his hand on his weapon. "I need to check that closet. Stand back, both of you." He cautiously approached the utility closet and pulled it open. Nothing. Callum feigned confusion. "I don't understand. That blood wasn't there earlier." Officer Rafferty's radio crackled. "Trent, we've got a situation at Lakeview Park. All units respond." "I'll need to call this in," the officer said, eyeing them both suspiciously. "Don't touch anything. I'll have forensics out here first thing tomorrow." After giving them instructions not to leave town, Officer Rafferty departed, leaving Callum and Adrian alone in the basement. "What is going on, Callum?" Adrian demanded, her voice shaking. "I have no idea," he lied smoothly. "I was just getting some clothes and—" His phone rang. He checked the screen, then answered. "Severin." "Sir, there's been an incident at your address," came Officer Rafferty's voice, following the script Callum had given him earlier. "Your wife is asking for you." "I'll be right there," Callum responded, hanging up and turning to Adrian with a confused expression. "Who was that?" she asked. "The police. They said there's been an incident here and you're asking for me." "What?" "But I'm right here, and the police just left." The doorbell rang, startling them both. "Stay here," Callum ordered, heading upstairs. He opened the front door to find Wesley standing there, visibly distraught. "Wes, what are you doing here?" Wesley was shaking. "You don't want to go in there, trust me," he said loudly, following the script Callum had provided when he'd called him an hour earlier, promising to explain everything later. From inside the house, Adrienne's voice called out, "Callum? Who is it?" She appeared in the hallway behind Callum, confusing Wesley. "Adri? But how?" Wesley started. Suddenly, from the basement came a woman's scream, a recording Callum had set up on a timer. "I did what I had to do. I had no other option." The voice wailed, a perfect imitation of Adrienne's voice created using AI technology. Adrian froze. That sounds like me." "Callum, what the hell is happening?" Callum's face remained impassive as he turned to her. "I don't know, Adri, but we're going to find out." He led her and a bewildered Wesley back down to the basement. The blood was still there, but now there was something new, bloody handprints on the wall leading to the utility room. "This wasn't here before," Adrian whispered, her face ashen. Callum moved toward the utility room door, which was now closed again. "Callum, don't," Wesley warned, grabbing his arm. Callum shook him off and opened the door. What they saw inside changed everything forever. A life-size mannequin dressed in Vincent's clothes sat propped against the wall, a gaping wound in its chest. Blood, fake but remarkably realistic, covered the floor. On the wall behind it, written in what looked like blood, "He deserved it." Adrian screamed, collapsing against Wesley. "What is this? What sick game is this?" Callum turned to her, his eyes cold. "This is just the beginning, Adri. Just the beginning." Chapter 4. Fractured Mirrors. The following morning, Callum sat in Dominic Savino's office, calmly explaining what had transpired at the house. "Let me get this straight," Dominic said, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You staged a crime scene in your own basement to terrorize your wife." "To send a message," Callum corrected. "There's a difference. The police were involved. Officer Rafferty is an old client. He owed me a favor. The 911 call was anonymous. The blood was corn syrup with food coloring. No crime was committed." Dominic leaned back in his chair. "And your goal was what, exactly?" "To destabilize Adrian. To make her feel what I felt. That her world could collapse in an instant. That nothing is certain." "This is not the Callum Severin I've known for 10 years," Dominic said carefully. "This is something else. Something better," Callum replied. "Something unburdened by sentimentality." Dominic studied his client. "And what happens now?" Now we file for divorce. Full financial separation. I want the house, the vacation property in Vermont, 70% of our assets." "That's aggressive, Cal." "No judge will. They will when they see the prenup she signed. The infidelity clause is clear." Dominic nodded slowly. "And Vincent Hargrove?" "He's no longer a concern," Callum said dismissively. "He left town last night. But Adrian doesn't know that yet." After leaving his lawyer's office, Callum visited Raymond Kessler at his compound in rural New Hampshire. The older man's sprawling property was as much fortress as home, reflecting Raymond's lifelong paranoia and the enemies he'd made building his security empire. "You took my lessons too much to heart," Raymond said as they walked the perimeter of his estate, guard dogs patrolling nearby. "I taught you to identify vulnerabilities, exploit weaknesses. But I never meant for you to use those skills this way." "You taught me to be ruthless in business," Callum replied. "Why should personal matters be different?" Raymond stopped, turning to face his protege. "Because business is business. The heart is something else entirely." "My heart died 3 weeks ago, Ray." The older man sighed. "What's your endgame here, Callum?" "You terrorize Adrian, drive away her lover, take everything in the divorce. Then what? You think that fills the hole?" Callum stared out over the property. "It's not about filling anything. It's about justice." "Justice?" Raymond scoffed. "This is vengeance, pure and simple. And vengeance is a poison. I've watched better men than you destroy themselves pursuing it. Then so be it." Back in Boston that evening, Callum met Leo at their usual bar. His friend slid a phone across the table. Burner phone. All the texts between Adrian and Vincent since you confronted her. Figured you'd want to know what they're saying. Callum scrolled through the messages. Adrian had been frantic after the basement incident, texting Vincent repeatedly with no response. Her texts grew increasingly desperate. "Where are you? Something terrible happened at the house. Vincent, please call me. I'm scared. Are you okay? I can't reach you, and I'm worried. Did Callum do something to you? Please just let me know you're alive." The text continued for hours, unanswered. The last one, sent this morning, read, "If I don't hear from you by tonight, I'm going to the police." Callum smiled. "Perfect." Leo looked troubled. "Cal, you need to ease up. She's falling apart." "Good. This isn't you, man. The Callum I know. The Callum you knew was a fool who trusted too easily," he cut in sharply. "That man is gone." Leo shook his head. "What happened in that basement last night? Wesley's not talking. Just a little theatrical production. A taste of what's to come." "And what is coming, Cal?" Callum took a sip of his whiskey. "The complete dismantling of Adrienne's world. Piece by piece." Later that night, Callum returned to his apartment to find Wesley waiting in the lobby. His brother-in-law looked haggard, eyes bloodshot. "We need to talk," Wesley said as they rode the elevator up. "About last night." Inside the apartment, Callum poured them both drinks. "Adrienne's a wreck," Wesley said. "She can't reach Vincent. She thinks you've done something to him." "Have I?" Callum asked mildly. Wesley studied him. "I don't know anymore. That's what scares me." "Relax, Wes. Vincent's fine. He left town of his own accord." "And that scene in the basement?" "A lesson." Wesley downed his drink. "This has to stop, Cal. Whatever game you're playing, it's cruel. Adrian made a mistake, but this..." "A mistake." Callum's voice hardened. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something hurtful in anger. carrying on a 4-month affair with another man, bringing him into our home, into our bed? That's a choice, Wes. A deliberate, calculated choice. So what's your plan? Torture her psychologically until she breaks. Something like that. Wesley stood. I can't be part of this. Whatever happened to you, whatever switched inside you, I don't recognize you anymore. You never knew me, Wes. Not really. None of you did. After Wesley left, Callum checked his security cameras. He had installed them in the house years ago, a professional habit, and Adrian had never known about them. Through them, he watched as she paced their living room, phone in hand, periodically trying Vincent's number again. Her fear was palpable, exactly as he'd planned. Chapter 5. The Blood Price. The next morning, Adrian finally went to the police to report Vincent missing. Callum, who had anticipated this move, was already there, speaking with Captain Bennett, another client whose home security system Callum had installed at a steep discount. As Adrian entered the station, she froze at the sight of Callum chatting amicably with the police captain. Mrs. Severin, Captain Bennett greeted her. Your husband was just telling me about the strange incident at your home. We've dispatched officers to check it out. I'm here about something else, Adrian stammered. My friend, Vincent Hargrove. He's missing. Missing? The captain raised his eyebrows. Since when? I haven't heard from him since yesterday morning. Captain Bennett glanced at Callum, who maintained a neutral expression. That's hardly enough time to declare someone missing, Mrs. Severin, especially an adult male with no known threats against him. You don't understand. The timing, with what happened at our house. The mannequin incident? The captain asked. Your husband has explained that was likely a prank by local teenagers. We've had similar reports in the area. Adrienne's eyes widened in disbelief. She turned to Callum. A prank? You know that's not. Adri, Callum interrupted gently. The picture of a concerned husband. I know you're upset about everything that's happened, but jumping to conclusions isn't helping. She stared at him, speechless. Tell you what, Captain Bennett said. We'll take down Mr. Hargrove's information and keep an eye out. In the meantime, try calling his other friends, family, see if anyone's heard from him. Outside the station, Adrian confronted Callum. What did you do to him? Nothing, Adri. Vincent chose to leave. I don't believe you. Callum shrugged. Believe what you want. But ask yourself this. If he really loved you, would he disappear without a word when things got complicated? That afternoon, Callum met with their financial advisor, Bernard Walsh, to begin transferring assets. The prenuptial agreement Adrian had signed gave Callum significant leverage in case of infidelity, and he intended to use it fully. She'll fight this, Bernard warned, regardless of the prenup. Let her, Callum replied. I have documentation of the affair. Photographs, text messages, hotel receipts. Bernard looked uncomfortable. And Vincent Hargrove? What about him? What about him? There are rumors, Callum, about why he left town so suddenly. Callum's expression remained unchanged. People gossip, Bernard. Vincent had his own problems. That evening, Callum received a call from Leo. We've got a situation, Leo said without preamble. Adrian went to Vincent's gallery today. It was closed, but she made a scene, started shouting that you'd done something to him. His assistant called security. Perfect, Callum said. The more unstable she appears, the better for me. Cal, this is getting dangerous. She's spiraling. If she keeps making these accusations publicly, then what? The police investigate? They find nothing because there's nothing to find. Leo was quiet for a moment. Deacon asked about the gun. Tell him I no longer need it. He's worried. So am I. Don't be. Everything's proceeding exactly as planned. The next day, divorce papers were delivered to Adrian at the house. Callum had them served while she was having lunch with her mother, ensuring maximum embarrassment. The terms were brutal. Callum was claiming almost everything, citing the infidelity clause in their prenup. That night, Adrian showed up at his apartment, eyes red-rimmed, clutching the papers. Let me in, Callum, she demanded. We need to talk about this. He let her in, maintaining his cold demeanor. There's nothing to discuss. The terms are clear. This is insane, she said, throwing the papers onto his coffee table. You're asking for everything. The house, the vacation property, my car, even my grandmother's jewelry. The jewelry I bought you, he corrected. As for the rest, you agreed to these terms when you signed the prenup. Section 7, paragraph 3. In the event of infidelity by either party, the wronged spouse shall be entitled to, he recited from memory. I know what it says, she snapped. But this is vindictive, Cal. This isn't about fairness or legality. This is punishment. Yes, he agreed simply. It is. Adrian stared at him, taken aback by his honesty. What happened to you? The man I married would never. The man you married died the moment he saw those texts. Callum interrupted. This is who I am now. And the basement? The mannequin? Making me think you'd hurt Vincent. Psychological warfare, he said with a shrug. I wanted you to feel what I felt. Complete disorientation, the sense that the ground beneath your feet had disappeared. Adrian sat heavily on his couch. Where is he, Cal? Where's Vincent? Gone. I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. He chose self-preservation over you. The fight seemed to drain out of her. So all of this, the missing person report, me thinking it was all a game to you? Not a game. A lesson. And what lesson is that? Callum leaned forward. That betrayal has consequences. That I'm not the man you thought I was. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. You know what's ironic, Cal? This cold, ruthless version of you is exactly why I turned to Vincent in the first place. Explain. You've always had this capacity for detachment, for compartmentalizing emotions. I used to admire it, how you could separate personal feelings from business decisions. But over the years, that wall between your compartments started to disappear. Everything became business to you, even our marriage. Callum's expression remained impassive. Vincent made me feel wanted, she continued. Not like an asset, not like another successful acquisition. Like a woman. And now? How do you feel now that he's abandoned you? Her eyes hardened. Like I finally see you clearly. And like I'll fight you with everything I have. As she stood to leave, Callum called after her. The difference between us, Adri, is that I never betrayed you. I gave you everything. Except yourself, she said quietly, closing the door behind her. That night, Callum received a text from an unknown number. You've made a powerful enemy. Watch your back. He smiled. Things were proceeding exactly as planned. Chapter 6, Wolves at the Door. The divorce proceedings moved quickly. Adrian hired Patricia Vasquez, a renowned divorce attorney known for her aggressive tactics. At their first court appearance, Patricia argued that the prenuptial agreement should be invalidated due to Callum's pattern of psychological abuse. My client has been subjected to extreme emotional distress, Patricia told the judge. Mr. Severin staged a violent crime scene in their home to terrorize her. He's systematically isolated her from friends and resources. Dominic Savino, Callum's attorney, countered with evidence of Adrienne's affair. Photographs, text messages, hotel receipts, all meticulously documented by Leo. Mrs. Severin's claims of abuse are a transparent attempt to distract from her own actions, Dominic argued. The prenuptial agreement is clear about the consequences of infidelity. Judge Abernathy, a stern woman in her 60s, seemed unimpressed with both sides. I've seen enough theatrics from both parties, she declared. This court will not be used as a stage for personal vendettas. The prenuptial agreement stands for now, but I'm ordering a full financial disclosure from both sides before proceeding further. Outside the courthouse, reporters had gathered. Callum strode past them without comment, but Adrian stopped, tears streaming down her face. My husband is destroying me for making one mistake, she told the cameras. He's a vindictive, dangerous man. Leo, who had been watching from a distance, caught up with Callum at his car. This is getting ugly fast, Cal. She's going public with accusations. Let her, Callum replied calmly. It only makes her look unhinged. She mentioned the basement incident, a prank by local teens, according to police reports. Captain Bennett has already gone on record saying as much. Leo studied his friend. You've thought of everything, haven't you? That's why I'm still standing, Callum said, getting into his car. And Vincent Hargrove isn't. The next day, Callum visited his old house to collect more belongings. Adrian was supposed to be out, but he found her sitting in the kitchen, staring at nothing. "I thought you'd be at your mother's," he said, setting down his empty boxes. "I couldn't face her," Adrian replied, her voice hollow. "She keeps asking what I did to make you so angry." "And what did you tell her?" "The truth. That I betrayed you. That I deserve some punishment, but not this." She gestured vaguely around them. "Not this systematic destruction." Callum began filling a box with books from his study, saying nothing. "I went to Vincent's gallery again yesterday," Adrian continued. "His assistant finally told me the truth. Vincent sold everything and left town the night before that incident in our basement. He didn't even say goodbye. Men like Vincent rarely do." "Was that part of your plan too? Buying his debt? Forcing him to run?" Callum paused. "You know about that? His assistant told me everything. How you threatened him with Russian loan sharks and fraud charges. How you gave him an ultimatum. And still, he chose self-preservation over you," Callum noted. "What does that tell you about his love?" Adrienne's laugh was bitter. "At least he was capable of love. You, this version of you, I don't think you're capable of feeling anything anymore." "You're wrong," Callum said, continuing to pack. "I feel satisfaction." That evening, Callum was working late at his office when his security system alerted him to a breach at his apartment. He remotely accessed the cameras to see Wesley forcing open his door. By the time Callum arrived home, Wesley had ransacked the place, clearly searching for something. Callum found him in the home office, going through his computer files. "Looking for something specific?" Callum asked from the doorway. Wesley spun around, startled. "Cal, I can explain." "Save it. What are you looking for?" "Proof," Wesley said defiantly. "Proof of what you did to Vincent. Adrienne's falling apart, convinced you've hurt him. And you thought you'd find, what? A confession? A murder weapon?" Callum shook his head. "You're smarter than that, Wes. Then tell me the truth. Man to man, did you hurt him?" "No." Callum sighed. "I threatened him with exposure, gambling debts, art fraud, and he ran. Self-preservation. It's a powerful instinct." Wesley seemed to deflate. "So all this, Adrienne's breakdown, the accusations, are the consequences of her choices. And yours, breaking in here tonight. What will you do?" Callum studied his brother-in-law. "Nothing. For old time's sake. But don't test me again, Wes." After Wesley left, Callum received another anonymous text. "You think you're untouchable. You'll learn." He forwarded it to Leo with the message, "Trace this." The next morning, Leo called with news. "The texts are coming from a burner phone, but I traced the purchase to a credit card belonging to Madeline Coleman, Adrienne's friend," Callum used. "Interesting. There's more. Madeline's been asking questions around town. About you, your business, your clients." "What kind of questions?" "The kind that suggest she's looking for dirt. Your past, any skeletons in your closet." Callum smiled. "She won't find any. Everyone has skeletons, Cal. Not me. I buried mine too deep to find." That afternoon, Callum visited Madeline at her boutique in Back Bay. The elegant shop was empty except for a young sales assistant who called Madeline from the back office. "Callum," Madeline said coolly when she appeared. "What an unpleasant surprise." "We need to talk," he replied, equally cold. In her office, Callum came straight to the point. "Stop looking into my past, Madeline. You won't find anything, and you're only making things worse for Adrienne." She raised an eyebrow. "Is that a threat?" "A friendly warning. I know about the texts. I know you're helping Adrienne build a case against me. You're wasting your time." "You know nothing about what I'm doing," Madeline replied. "But I know plenty about you, Callum Severin. I know you came from nothing. I know you reinvented yourself. And I know men like you have secrets. Men like me, self-made men with mysterious pasts and convenient gaps in their histories." Callum leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen, Madeline. You're going to stop digging. You're going to stop helping Adrienne with her vendetta. Because if you don't, I'll be forced to take an interest in your husband's offshore accounts." Madeline paled. "What are you talking about?" "Thomas Coleman, investment banker. 3 accounts in the Caymans, holding approximately $6.2 million that the IRS knows nothing about. Will be a shame if someone sent them an anonymous tip." "You're bluffing." Callum slid a folder across her desk. Inside were bank statements, transaction records, all the evidence needed to destroy Thomas Coleman's career and freedom. "How did you?" I have resources, Madeline. More than you can imagine. This is your only warning. As he turned to leave, she called after him. She loved you, you know. Despite everything. Callum paused at the door. Love is a luxury I can no longer afford. That night, Callum met Raymond Kessler at a private club downtown. The older man looked grim. You making waves, Callum? Dangerous ones. Meaning Adrienne's not the only one asking questions now. The FBI came to see me today. Asked about you, your business, your clients. Callum's eyes narrowed. What did you tell them? Nothing they didn't already know. But they're interested, Callum. Very interested. In what? In your sudden acquisition of Vincent Hargrove's debt. In your connections to Alexei Petrov. In the timing of Hargrove's disappearance. Hargrove didn't disappear. He fled. There's a difference. Raymond leaned forward. Listen to me carefully. You've let this vendetta consume you. It's affecting your judgment. Walk away now before it's too late. I can't, Callum said simply. Not until it's finished. And when will that be? Raymond asked. When Adrienne's broken. When you've taken everything. What's the endgame here? Justice, Callum replied. Nothing more, nothing less. As he left the club, Callum's phone buzzed with a text from Leo. We've got trouble. Meet me at your office. Now, Chapter 7, Scorched Earth. Leo was waiting when Callum arrived at Severance Solutions headquarters, a converted warehouse in the Seaport District. The offices were empty at this late hour, which was exactly why Leo had chosen to meet here. What's the emergency? Callum asked, finding Leo in his private office. Leo passed him a tablet. On it was a video file. This came an hour ago. Anonymous email. Callum pressed play. The video showed a meeting with Alexei Petrov in a parking garage 3 weeks earlier, discussing the purchase of Vincent's debt. The audio was crystal clear. I want Hargrove desperate, cornered, Callum's voice said on the recording. I want him to feel like he has no options. And if he doesn't run? Petrov had asked. Then we moved to Plan B, Callum had replied. Which is? You don't want to know. The video ended. Callum's face remained impassive, but inside his mind raced. Who sent this? He asked. Untraceable. But the message with it was clear. $500,000 or this goes to the FBI. Callum set down the tablet. Blackmail. Cal, this looks bad. Really bad. It makes it sound like you had plans to harm Vincent if he didn't leave town. It was a bluff. There was no plan B. The FBI won't see it that way. Not with Hargrove gone and you systematically destroying Adrienne's life. Callum paced the office. Who could have recorded this? The garage was secure. Petrov's men swept it for devices. Someone's been 2 steps ahead of you, Leo said grimly. Question is who? Adrienne doesn't have the resources or connections for this. Vincent was too scared to try anything. What about Madeline? You said she's been digging. Callum shook his head. Not her style. This is professional work. They were interrupted by Callum's phone buzzing with a text from Wesley. Need to see you. Emergency. Your apartment in 30. Go, Leo said. I'll keep working on tracing the blackmail email. At his apartment, Callum found Wesley pacing anxiously in the lobby. What's the emergency? Callum asked as they rode the elevator up. It's Adrienne, Wesley said, his voice strained. She's gone too far. Inside the apartment, Wesley explained, she went to the FBI, Cal, told them you threatened Vincent, forced him to leave town. She's convinced you've hurt him or worse. She has no proof. She claimed you staged that scene in the basement to terrorize her, that you've been psychologically torturing her for weeks. They're taking it seriously, Cal. They're reopening the investigation into Vincent's disappearance. Callum absorbed this news calmly. Let them investigate. They'll find nothing because there's nothing to find. Wesley studied him. You really didn't hurt him, did you? No. I just gave him a way out that he took. Then why all this? Wesley gestured around them. The elaborate revenge, the psychological games, destroying Adrienne this way. Callum was quiet for a long moment. Because betrayal deserves consequences. Because I gave her everything, and she threw it away for a man who abandoned her at the first sign of trouble. Wesley sighed heavily. Look, there's something else you should know. The reason Adrienne went to the FBI today, Vincent called her. Callum's head snapped up. What? From Mexico. Said he was sorry for leaving without saying goodbye, but you'd threatened his life. Said he had evidence against you he was afraid to use. That's impossible. Vincent's in Arizona. I've been tracking him. Wesley looked confused. Arizona? No, he called from Cancun. Adrian recorded the call. Callum's mind raced. If Vincent wasn't in Arizona, who had his people been tracking? And if Vincent was really in Cancun, freely contacting Adrian? I need to make some calls, Callum said abruptly. After Wesley left, Callum immediately called Leo. Vincent's in Mexico, not Arizona. He contacted Adrian today. That's impossible, Leo replied. My guys have been watching him at that art retreat in Sedona for 2 weeks. Then they're watching the wrong man, Callum said grimly. We've been played. He next called Raymond. Vincent Hargrove is in Mexico. He's been feeding Adrian information, encouraging her to go to the FBI. Raymond was silent for a moment. This changes things. If he's working with the authorities. He's not, Callum interrupted. He's playing his own game. I need to know who else might be involved. I'll make some calls, Raymond promised. But Callum, you need to consider the possibility that this has gone too far. If the FBI is investigating, it's too late to back down now, Callum said firmly. I need to see this through. The next morning, Callum met with Dominic to discuss this new development. The FBI visited my office yesterday, Dominic told him. Asked about you, about the divorce proceedings, about Vincent Hargrove. What did you tell them? Attorney-client privilege. I told them nothing. But Callum, this is serious. They had a warrant for your financial records, specifically the purchase of Hargrove's debt from Petrov. Callum nodded. I expected as much. There's more. Patricia Vasquez filed an emergency motion this morning. Adrienne's claiming emotional distress, saying you've engaged in a systematic campaign to destroy her mentally and financially. She's seeking a restraining order and asking the judge to freeze all your assets pending investigation. On what grounds? She's claiming the money used to buy Hargrove's debt was from joint marital assets, that you used her money to threaten her lover. Callum smiled coldly. Clever. But the money came from my personal accounts, not joint funds. I can prove it. Dominic studied his client. You knew this was coming, didn't you? You've been 3 steps ahead this whole time. Not the whole time, Callum admitted. But enough of it. That afternoon, Callum received a call from an unknown number. He answered cautiously. Mr. Severin, came a familiar voice. Vincent Hargrove. I believe we have unfinished business. Vincent, Callum replied evenly. Enjoying Mexico? For now. But I'm thinking of returning to Boston. I miss the climate. I wouldn't advise that. Vincent chuckled. No, I imagine you wouldn't. Tell me, how does it feel to be the one being hunted for a change? Is that what you think is happening? The FBI is building a case against you, Callum. Intimidation, harassment, financial crimes. All because you couldn't handle your wife finding someone who actually made her happy. Callum's voice remained steady. You abandoned her, Vincent. The moment things got difficult, you ran. What does that say about your love? I ran because you threatened my life. Vincent snapped. But I've been working with Adrian the whole time, helping her build a case against you. And the blackmail attempt? Was that you too? A pause. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't, Callum said, unconvinced. What do you want, Vincent? The same thing you wanted from me. For you to disappear. Leave Boston. Leave Adrian alone. Or the FBI gets everything I have on you. You're bluffing. You have nothing. The video in the parking garage says otherwise. So it was Vincent behind the blackmail. Callum smiled to himself. You made one critical mistake, Vincent. And what's that? You assumed I care about consequences. Before Vincent could respond, Callum ended the call. He immediately called Leo. I need everything you have on Vincent's current location. Phone records, credit card traces, everything. Already working on it, Leo replied. But Cal, there's something else you should know. Your office was raided this morning. FBI. They took computers, files, everything related to your business with Petrov. Expected, Callum said calmly. What about the offshore contingencies? Untouched. They don't know about those accounts. Good. I need you to activate Protocol Lazarus. Leo was silent for a moment. You're sure? That's scorched earth, Cal. No going back. I'm sure. It's time to end this. Protocol Lazarus was Callum's ultimate contingency plan, developed years earlier for a worst-case scenario. It involved liquidating certain assets, activating dormant shell companies, and essentially creating a financial firewall that would protect his core holdings from any legal attack. That evening, Callum received a text from Wesley. Adrienne's been hospitalized. Nervous breakdown. She needs you, Cal. Despite everything. Callum stared at the message for a long time before deleting it unanswered. Instead, he drove to Raymond's estate in New Hampshire. The older man was waiting for him on the porch, drinking whiskey despite the cool evening air. I warned you, Raymond said as Callum sat beside him. I told you vengeance was a poison. It's not vengeance anymore, Ray. It's survival. Raymond studied him. What are you planning? The end, Callum said simply. One way or another. Chapter 8. The Phoenix Gambit. The next morning, the Boston Globe's front page carried the headline, Security Mogul Under Investigation. FBI probes Callum Severin for alleged threats, financial crimes. The article detailed the FBI's investigation, Adrienne's allegations of psychological torture, and Vincent Hargrove's claims of intimidation. It painted Callum as a vengeful husband using his wealth and connections to destroy his wife and her lover. Callum read the article calmly over breakfast at Raymond's estate. The older man watched him with concern. Your reputation is in tatters, Raymond observed. Your business is under federal investigation. Your wife is in a psychiatric hospital. Was it worth it? Ask me when it's over, Callum replied, setting down the newspaper. His phone buzzed with a text from Leo. Vincent's in Cancun. Royal Mayan Resort. Room 412. Using the name Michael Pearson. Callum nodded to himself. I need to borrow your jet, Ray. Mexico. That's your play. Raymond looked incredulous. The FBI is watching you. The moment you try to leave the country. They'll arrest me, Callum finished. I'm counting on it. Raymond studied him. What game are you playing, Callum? The only one that matters now. One where everyone loses. Before leaving, Callum called Dominic. I need you to leak something to the press. Tell them an anonymous source close to Adrienne Severin has evidence that her breakdown was staged, part of a ploy to gain sympathy in the divorce proceedings. That's not true, Dominic protested. Truth is irrelevant at this point. Just do it. Next, Callum called Wesley. I got your text. How is she? How do you think? Wesley snapped. She's sedated, Cal. The doctors say she's had a complete psychological break. She keeps saying you're going to kill her, that you've already killed Vincent. I'll be there soon, Callum promised, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. Don't bother. You've done enough damage. Trust me one last time, Wes. There's more to this than you know. After hanging up, Callum enacted the final phase of Protocol Lazarus. He transferred $10 million to a series of untraceable offshore accounts, liquidated several properties, and instructed his attorneys to prepare certain documents for delivery in the event of his arrest. By mid-afternoon, everything was in place. Callum drove back to Boston, fully expecting to be arrested upon arrival. Sure enough, as he approached the city limits, police cars surrounded his vehicle, lights flashing. FBI agent Diana Mercer approached his window. Callum Severin, you're under arrest for wire fraud, extortion, and making interstate threats. You have the right to remain silent. As they led him away in handcuffs, reporters swarmed the scene. Callum maintained his composure, his face expressionless as cameras flashed around him. At FBI headquarters, Callum was placed in an interrogation room. Agent Mercer and her partner, Agent Bowen, sat across from him. Dominic Savino had arrived to represent him. We have you on tape threatening Vincent Hargrove, Agent Mercer began, playing the parking garage video. We have financial records showing you purchased his debt from a known Russian criminal. We have testimony from your wife about your campaign of psychological torture. Callum remained silent, following Dominic's advice. Mr. Severin has nothing to say at this time, Dominic stated firmly. That's fine, Agent Bowen replied. We have plenty of evidence, including this. He slid a photograph across the table. Callum meeting with Deacon Murphy the night he'd asked about a gun. Deacon Murphy, Agent Mercer said, known arms dealer. Would you like to explain that meeting, Mr. Severin? Dominic intervened again. My client exercises his right to remain silent. The interrogation continued for hours, with the agents presenting piece after piece of evidence against Callum. Throughout it all, he remained impassive, almost serene. Finally, Agent Mercer slammed her hand on the table. Enough games, Severin. Where's the gun you got from Murphy? What did you do with it? For the first time, Callum spoke. I'd like to make a deal. The agents exchanged surprised glances. What kind of deal? Agent Bowen asked cautiously. Immunity from prosecution in exchange for information about Vincent Hargrove and Alexei Petrov. Agent Mercer scoffed. You're not in a position to make demands, Severin. I think I am, Callum replied calmly. Because what I know about Petrov's operation in Boston would justify a complete immunity deal. And what I know about Vincent Hargrove would interest you greatly. We're listening, Agent Bowen said after a moment. Not until I have immunity in writing, signed by the U.S. attorney. They left him alone with Dominic, who looked bewildered. What are you doing, Cal? They have enough to put you away for years. Trust me, Callum said. This was always the plan. 6 hours later, Agent Mercer returned with a signed immunity agreement. This only covers the financial crimes and alleged threats, she clarified. If we find evidence of violence against Hargrove or anyone else, all bets are off. Understood, Callum nodded, signing the document. Now talk, Agent Bowen demanded. Callum smiled. Vincent Hargrove has been working with Alexei Petrov for years, laundering money through his art gallery. The gambling debts were real, but they were just a small part of their arrangement. Vincent sells forged artwork to Petrov's associates, helping them convert dirty money into legitimate assets. The agents looked skeptical. You expect us to believe Hargrove is the real criminal here? Agent Mercer asked. I don't expect you to believe anything, Callum replied. I expect you to investigate. You'll find everything you need on this. He nodded to Dominic, who produced a flash drive from his briefcase. Financial records, communications, evidence of at least a dozen forged artworks sold in the last 3 years. Agent Bowen took the drive. And your wife? Was terrorizing her part of your plan to expose Hargrove? Adrian knew nothing about Vincent's criminal activities. She was a pawn in his game, a way to access wealthy potential marks through our social circle. So your revenge against her was real, Callum admitted, but not in the way you think. I needed Vincent to believe I was consumed by vengeance, blinded by it. It was the only way to get close enough to gather the evidence you now have. The agents exchanged glances. We'll need to verify all of this, Agent Mercer said. Of course. In the meantime, I believe our agreement means I'm free to go. As Callum walked out of FBI headquarters that evening, Leo was waiting for him. It worked? Leo asked, falling into step beside him. Perfectly, Callum confirmed. They took the bait. And now we proceed to the final phase. The next morning, FBI agents raided Vincent Hargrove's gallery and home, discovering evidence supporting Callum's claims. Simultaneously, Mexican authorities, acting on information provided by the FBI, arrested Vincent at his hotel in Cancun. The Boston Globe's headline read, Art dealer arrested in international fraud scheme. Vincent Hargrove linked to Russian money laundering operation. Callum visited Adrian at the hospital that afternoon. She was sitting by the window in the psychiatric ward, staring blankly outside. She didn't turn when he entered. It's over, Adri, he said softly, sitting across from her. Vincent's been arrested. His criminal activities have been exposed. She turned slowly to face him, her eyes vacant. You knew, she whispered. You knew what he was all along. Yes. And everything you did, the basement, the psychological warfare, it was all to expose him? Not entirely, Callum admitted. I wanted you to suffer, Adri. I wanted you to feel what I felt when I discovered your betrayal. But I also needed Vincent to believe I was blinded by vengeance, focused only on destroying you. It was the only way to get close enough to gather evidence against him. Tears welled in her eyes. You let me believe I was losing my mind. You let me be hospitalized, sedated, a necessary evil. She laughed bitterly. You haven't changed at all, have you? Still compartmentalizing, still justifying cruelty as necessity. The difference is I now know what I'm capable of, Callum replied. And so do you. As he stood to leave, Adrian grabbed his wrist. Did you ever love me, Cal? Or was I just another acquisition, another asset to be protected? Callum paused. I loved you more than anything, Adri. That's why your betrayal hurt so deeply. That's why I needed to make you pay for it. And now that you've won, now we both lose, he said simply, gently removing her hand from his wrist. The divorce proceedings continue. The terms remain the same, even after everything, especially after everything. Chapter 9, Ashes of Redemption. 1 month later, Callum sat in Judge Abernathy's chambers with Dominic, Patricia Vasquez, and Adrian. The divorce proceedings had reached their end. I've reviewed all the evidence and arguments from both sides, Judge Abernathy said sternly. This case has been one of the most disturbing I've presided over in 30 years on the bench. She turned to Callum. Mr. Severin, while your actions in exposing Mr. Hargrove's criminal activities were ultimately beneficial to law enforcement, your methods, particularly your psychological warfare against your wife, were cruel and unconscionable. Callum nodded slightly, but said nothing. And Mrs. Severin, the judge continued, while you were a victim of manipulation by both your husband and Mr. Hargrove, your admitted infidelity was the catalyst for these events. Judge Abernathy sighed heavily. Having considered the prenuptial agreement and all mitigating factors, I'm prepared to render my decision. The judgment was a compromise. Callum received the house and 60% of their joint assets, rather than the 70% he demanded. Adrian kept her car, her grandmother's jewelry, and the vacation property in Vermont. Both were ordered to undergo psychological counseling. Outside the courthouse, Adrian approached Callum. So that's it? 15 years ends like this. Yes, he said simply. You know, I kept hoping, even after everything, that somewhere inside you was the man I married. The man who could forgive. That man died the night I saw those texts, Callum replied. And he's never coming back. What will you do now, she asked. Start over. Somewhere new. Adrian nodded sadly. For what it's worth, I am sorry, Cal. Not just for the affair, but for not seeing who you really were all these years. And who is that? Someone who can never let go of a betrayal. Someone who will burn everything to the ground rather than forgive. Callum didn't dispute her assessment. Goodbye, Adri. That evening, Callum met Leo at their usual bar for the last time. It's all set, Leo informed him. The company's been sold to Raymond's group. Your new identity and accounts are ready in Geneva. Clean break, just like you wanted. And the loose ends? Tied up. FBI investigation closed with Hargrove's conviction. Petrov's operation dismantled. Your immunity deal holds. Callum nodded, satisfied. And Wesley? Still angry, but he'll be fine. I'll keep an eye on him, like you asked. They drank in silence for a moment before Leo spoke again. Was it worth it, Cal? All of this? Callum considered the question. I lost my wife, my home, my business, my reputation. But I protected what matters most, which is the principle, the knowledge that no one betrays Callum Severin without consequences. Leo shook his head. That's a cold comfort to take into exile. It's enough. The next morning, Callum visited Raymond's estate one final time. The older man embraced him like a son. I still think you went too far, Raymond said as they walked the grounds. But I understand why you did it. Do you? Callum asked. Yes, because I would have done the same. Raymond sighed. That's the curse of men like us, Callum. We can't let betrayal stand. We can't show weakness, even if it costs us everything. Not everything, Callum corrected. I still have what matters. Your pride, my self-respect. As Callum prepared to leave, Raymond handed him a small wooden box. A parting gift, something to remember who you were. Inside was a photograph of Callum and Adrian on their wedding day, both looking impossibly young and happy. Beneath it lay the first security system Callum had ever designed, a crude prototype that had launched his career. Thank you, Callum said, genuinely moved. Your new life awaits, Raymond said. But remember, no matter how far you run, you can't escape yourself. Callum's private jet departed Boston Logan International Airport that afternoon. As the city receded beneath him, he reflected on the past few months. The pain, The rage, the calculated revenge. He felt no regret, no second thoughts. Only a cold satisfaction that justice, as he defined it, had been served. Vincent Hargrove would spend years in federal prison. Adrian had lost the husband who had given her everything, the lover who had promised her excitement, and the social standing she had cultivated for 15 years. And Callum himself had lost the life he had built, but preserved the principle that had always guided him. Betrayal must have consequences. His phone buzzed with one final text from Leo. Wesley's asking questions. Says he knows what really happened. Be careful. Callum smiled to himself. Wesley could ask all the questions he wanted. The truth was buried too deep for anyone to find now. As the plane crossed the Atlantic, Callum Severin died on paper, and Alexander Pierce was born. A new name, a new life, a new beginning. But underneath it all, he remained unchanged, a man who never forgave, never forgot, and never showed mercy to those who betrayed him. The sun set over the ocean as Callum opened his laptop and began planning his next venture. The past was behind him now, reduced to ashes by his own hand. From those ashes, like a phoenix, he would rise again, colder, harder, and more ruthless than before. After all, that was the man he had always been beneath the carefully constructed facade. Adrian had simply been the one to finally reveal him to himself. And for that, at least, he could almost thank her. Almost, but not quite. Because Callum Severin never forgave. Not anyone. Not ever. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.